A few weeks ago, we talked about extraterrestrials and how some of these very advanced extraterrestrials have been coming here for eons, probably, but for a long time. They've been coming to the Earth to help the human race. Yes, certainly for eons, at least since man on Earth had come to Earth over 18 million years ago. We have not been left alone. We have not been entirely left to our own devices. Had that been the case, I would not be talking to you right now because we'd already been finished. Actually, we finished ourselves off 3 times before this. We destroyed a planet, which was called Maldek, which is now the asteroid belt, orbiting the sun between Mars and Jupiter. That was a planet. There should be a planet there. There was a planet there at one time called Maldek. That was us. And then we gradually were born on this Earth through Adamic man, who was here, a more evolved race. Now you can see where the story of Adam and Eve came from. This was Adamic man who stayed here for a time to help this forlorn race. And we came here, practically from the ape stage. If you look back at Australopithecus, that was primitive man. They were humanoid certainly, but primitive man. And we gradually evolved up into the civilization of Lemuria, more advanced in many ways than the present civilization. And what did we do? We again destroyed that civilization through nuclear holocaust. We climbed back up through the radioactive disease and evolved past that and built up yet another civilization called Atlantis, the civilization of Atlantis. And then what did we do? Once again, we destroyed that civilization through nuclear holocaust. Now, if you don't believe any of this, Oppenheimer, the inventor, I suppose you could say, well, he had the team of inventors of the present-day nuclear weapon, the atomic bomb. He said that he admitted that this was not the first time. This was the first time in modern history, but this is not the first time that nuclear weapons were used on this earth. And of course, if you read the ancient Hindu scripts, there are graphic depictions of nuclear weapons and nuclear detonations in the ancient Hindu scripts, which are reported to be at least 8,000 years old, long before 1945. However, since 1945, there has been a spate of flying saucer activity. That's an unfortunate term for these magnificent craft. But there has been a spate of extraterrestrial craft, quite an increase since 1945. Well, that's because we then entered into the atomic age. And given our history, these extraterrestrials started to keep a closer watch. Not a close, because they've always kept a close watch on us. Because they come from this solar system, let's face it. Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Neptune, Saturn, they're all inhabited. In fact, all the planets are inhabited in this solar system, including the sun. Oh, well, how does somebody live on the sun? Well, we can't live there, of course. But for a being who has a highly evolved kind of energy body, that being is in a very different position from an evolutionary standpoint than is the human race. So we have highly evolved beings even on the sun. We have highly evolved beings on the planet Venus. Oh, well, that would fry anything to a crisp. Yeah, it would fry us to a crisp. Yeah, we got to get away from the idea of, well, I can't do it, therefore nobody can. This is a very myopic outlook, a very egocentric outlook, and the people who have broken away from this kind of limitation, well, they do not live within the confines of terrestrial limitation. I don't want to say human limitation because they are human. They are human, except for the Saturnians, or at least the advanced Saturnians do not inhabit humanoid structures. They inhabit ovoid bodies. Ovoid. Truth, it really is stranger than fiction, especially when you come to consider the universe and what it contains. And where do I get all this crazy idea? It's amazing that the people in my organization, my church, are calling me a conspiracy theorist. Yet this is where I got all this from. My church, in particular, the founder of my church, Dr. George King, who was a brilliant master of yoga, a telepathic medium, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of communications with advanced extraterrestrials did this man take over a 43-year period. And this is provable, by the way. It's absolutely provable. He was a great man, and he himself was not from this planet. That's right. Dr. George King was an avatar. I know there are a lot of people making a lot of claims. But of course, you always have to sort the wheat from the chaff. People are always going to make claims. There are a lot of frauds, charlatans, and deluded people in this movement, I'm afraid. However, in the 1960s, the mid-60s, there was a group of people from a planetary system some 36,000 light years from Earth who came to notice the work of Dr. King on this planet and his colleagues. They were from the planetary system which we call Gotha. That's a pseudonym, of course. It's called something that probably isn't in a physical language, because the advanced extraterrestrials don't communicate in speech. They communicate telepathically. Why talk if you don't have to? Right? They do talk, they do communicate, but not through the physical larynx, through thought impulses, which they can project over any distance. So Dr. King, he was a master, he was an avatar, he was above an earth master. In fact, he was one of the greatest avatars to ever walk the earth. And don't take my word for it, I've been researching this. I've been a follower of Dr. King for 36 years now, since 1986. And, that was the reason I was in Los Angeles for 50 years. Him. And that was the only reason. Believe me, I wasn't there for a vacation, like some of my family members think. Oh, he's having such a good time. Really? Really? You people don't really know what it is to sacrifice. I don't want to be presumptuous, but until you do make a move like that, where you give up everything for a spiritual path, you really don't know the meaning of sacrifice. I mean, you give up everything, you leave everything. Just about. I mean, I kept riding the bicycle. That was one thing I never stopped. But anyway, it wasn't a pleasant time. I mean, there were pleasant moments. The winters are a lot easier in Los Angeles, especially for a bike rider. But I just want to make it clear. My life was very good here. I was a full-time musician. I had about 40, 50 private students a week. I was playing anywhere from 3 to 6 nights a week in a great trio. And, my life was pretty much set. It was really a good life, and I just left it all for that man. That's my point. Call me deluded if you like. Well, investigation before condemnation requires the expenditure of effort, but it's a lot more profitable. Anyway, getting to the point, these masters, 3 of them came. 2 of them came, and then a third came, and then one of them was replaced in 1992. I said 1989 in that last video I made on the topic, but actually it was 1992. I really should know all this. I have to refresh my knowledge of these teachings, because they're the greatest teachings that the world has ever seen. Don't take my word for it. Look into it. As far as life on other planets in this solar system, read the Nine Freedoms. Read the Nine Freedoms and then study it. Study it. And you'll see what I mean. Not saying you should take the word of any book. I'm not saying you should believe things just because they're printed on in a book. But see if it resonates with you. I know people like to use that. I don't. I mean, the truth is the truth. Anyway, I listened to an address by one of the leaders in the church, and he misquoted the what was written about this new member, this new extraterrestrial. He's not new, but he's new to Earth. He replaced one of the Gotha, one of the Gotha masters, and we call him Adept number 11. It's what he's referred to as. So 10, 11, and 12, Adepts 10, 11, and 12 are from Gotha. So we did have at least 12 masters from other planets who were on this planet for some time. In the last century, the 20th century, now we're into the 21st century. Well, we still have at least these three. We have a few more as well. Lord Babaji is referred to as Adept number 6. He's been here for at least 18 million years. Probably longer than that, but at least 18 million years. Since the human race came to this planet, has Lord Babaji been here. He is referred to in our teachings as Adept number 6. So this is Adepts 10, 11, and 12. And 11 was replaced with this new Adept 11 in 1992. And it is very interesting that he should come at that time, actually at this time. You may say, well, that was 30 years ago. Was that 30 years ago? My math is terrible. 30 years ago? Well, 30 years to us may seem like a long time, because that's, at least a third of most people's lives is 30 years. I mean, if you lived to 90, 30 years is a third of your life. But someone who is immortal, and these beings are immortal. They've overcome the wheel of death and rebirth. They've overcome that. That's how evolved they are. They are ascended, resurrected masters. They probably overcame that thousands of years ago, thousands and thousands of years ago. So to a being like that, 30 years is not that long. And then to even greater beings who arrange that a master like this should come here, I mean, those beings have existed for eons. Probably in the same physical body for eons. So what is 30 years? It's a blink of an eye, really. So, why wait till the last minute, even in our time? Why wait till the last minute? So they did send this master then, and a little bit here about him. I'm doing this video because there was a slight misquote by the leader in the church when he talked about this master. He said that this particular master was an expert at manufactured and magnetic viruses. Actually, that wasn't quite right. Let me just read you this paragraph. Apparently, this man is not only famous, I'm talking about this extraterrestrial from the planetary system of Gotha who came in 1992. Apparently, this man is not only a famous pilot, having learned all that the Galactic Academy has to teach him, but he also became a specialist in space spores and viruses, some of which are not sentient, but more mechanical and magnetic. Mechanical, not manufactured. But I think that we can assume that if something is mechanical, it probably was manufactured. So you can see where the mistake came in. But mechanical, this is even more interesting. Mechanical. Just a little bit about that paragraph. It says, some of which are not sentient. Spacespores and viruses, some of which are not sentient. Well, now we know viruses are not sentient. Not what the medical profession is calling viruses. Not what the virologists are calling viruses. Before 1954, any talk about viruses was speculation by virologists. It was all speculation. Since 1954, these so-called viruses, what they are calling viruses, are merely particles which are coming from dead and dying cells. It's the decay from dead and dying cells in poisoned and starved cell cultures, because no virus has ever been isolated from any human or animal, and any virologist will tell you that. This is not conspiracy theory, for God's sake. You people claim to follow the science? Really? Do you really follow? Do you even know about the 9 pages of side effects that Pfizer just released? Do you even know about that? Do you realize that Pfizer was just taken off the New York Stock Exchange just recently? You probably don't realize any of that, do you? So please, don't let the word science scorch your lips. You are indoctrinated. You've been bamboozled. You've been hoodwinked by this vile medical syndicate, this pharmaceutical syndicate. So we know that this thing that they are calling viruses has never, not ever been proven to exist. When we come to consider what they're calling viruses and what they've labeled as viruses, when we look at the size of a virus, what they're calling these particles, they're calling viruses, which aren't really viruses, but whatever. The original definition of virus, or the real definition of a virus, is a poison, a venom or a poison. That is the definition of a virus, which has been hijacked by this medical industry, this pharmaceutical cartel, because, well, like we said, it makes a lot of dollars, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. Anyway, what the virologists say is that the typical virus varies in diameter from 20 nanometers to 250 to 400 nanometers. Keep those numbers in mind. However, some of the larger viruses are up to 500 nanometers. Now, the typical nanoparticle is anywhere from 1 to 100 nanometers. So it's smaller. These nanoparticles are smaller than any virus, or around the same size. Now, if we're talking about, if they're mechanical, that mechanical, how the heck is a virus mechanical? Well, we have these things called nanobots, and the nanobots, they range anywhere from 50 to 100 nanometers wide. So these are around the same size or even smaller than what the virologists are calling viruses. And they are mechanical, and they have been manufactured. Right? So, let's shit. Now, this is something that nobody in my church has even thought about. They haven't even thought about it. They read the words, but they don't know what the hell they mean. Well, I'm trying to shed some light on this, and I'm not making claims, by the way. I don't claim to really know. I'm not claiming to really know. Although, when I heard that, in light of what's happened in the past year, the past 2 years, I find it very interesting, because we know that graphene hydroxide, which is in these injections, is highly toxic, highly poisonous to the human body. Now, remember, the original definition of a virus is poison. or toxin, same thing. And so it's very interesting because this graphene, and we said this in the last video, this graphene hydroxide is both mechanical and magnetic. It functions mechanically under a current of electromagnetic frequency. And now, you see why with this one, the 5, which is the next generation from the 4. Got to be careful what I say. Keywords will trigger the AI, and down will come the video, and then I'll get a strike, and then I won't be able to post for a week, and then we'll start that whole ridiculous, vile, evil suppression of freedom of speech all over again. Big tech is evil. Big tech is an arm of the cult, the satanic cult. It's an arm of the deep state to shut us up. The people who are speaking the truth, not the rest. They don't even realize. Like my friend that I talked about the other day, he doesn't even realize any censorship's going on. Doesn't even realize it. We do know that there are these, well, obviously, we know that there are nanobots, which are 50 to 100 nanometers in size. They are roughly the same size as viruses. So these are indeed mechanical and magnetic viruses. And they're being injected into people. Are there nanobots in this? Well, there is graphene. We know that. And it's mechanical and it's magnetic. This paragraph is very interesting. What I do not know is, this was 30 years ago. What I do not know is why at this time, note that at this time in history, should a person with such unique specialization in deadly space spores and mechanical and magnetic viruses, be joining the Gotha Operation Sunbeam team on Terra? Why at this time? Well, what's happened in 2021 and in the past 2 years, maybe we can see why. Which just sheds a light, if this is true, and I certainly do believe it's true, it sheds a light on the absolute brilliance of those people. Imagine a brain who could look from, I don't know, light years away or millions of miles away or billions of miles away, who could look 30 years into the future on a planet light years or millions of miles away and say, yes, let's send this individual there. And that time in history to help those people because they're like a herd of cattle lining up for their own slaughter. It will happen in the year 2021. Imagine the mind, the brilliancy that kind of prophetic ability would take. These people are truly magnificent in their evolution, in their manifestation of divinity. And really, that's what I want to point out here, that yes, there are divine beings, God-men virtually, which do inhabit various places in the cosmos. And I think this is really magnificent, really, truly, and it's a magnificent thought. We are not alone. And if you're really interested, investigate these things. Like I said, read the 9 Freedoms. It's all in there. And you could decide for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for any of this. Investigate it for yourself. And then you'll know, or you'll see. You'll know. I mean, if you apply the teachings which are laid out here, apply them to your life, to your daily life, you will know. And you won't have to take my word for any of it.